Frederik, first of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be here to this conversation. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For the readers of Green Future AutoMagazine, it's very important to have the version of Frederik regarding the vision and the mission of the Green Ship of the Future organization. In this context, what do you consider most relevant in your organization?
I mean, if we look at the overall vision, we are, like many other people, trying to facilitate that we can leave this world in a better place than we came into it. And we are on the mission within this. This is a very broad spectrum, and there's a lot of stuff to be doing. And the UN have a few years back made a list of goals that is kind of an overall list of things that we need to think about in our day-to-day life to make sure that we don't harvest the world harder than it can actually take, to make sure that our children and the following generations will also have a nice place to live. Within that overall spectrum, we are on the mission to try to help to facilitate this transition towards what's more sustainable for the maritime community, and more especially shipping. As we just talked about, some of these changes that we have to go through are so large and are well beyond the scope of what a single company can do. Even the largest companies in the world can simply not do this alone, because it requires so many steps in the value chain. It's infrastructure, it's the vessels, and it's everything in relation to it. So what we try to do in Green Ship of the Future is that we take all these stakeholders and basically put them in the same room and facilitate that some of the smartest brains can come together on solving these issues. I think that was the short version.
When we compare to motor vehicles, the impact in terms of emissions from a ship is actually much bigger.
Yes.
What can we innovate and change in this area, and what influence does the Green Ship of the Future have in this kind of battle?
Just to clarify a little bit, you're of course correct. A ship most likely emit a lot more than a car. But if we talk about per transported person or per transported ton of goods, shipping is by far the most sustainable way of transporting. A lot more sustainable than cars, a lot more sustainable than airplanes, and a lot more sustainable than even electric trains. With that being said, these are extremely large machines. They have been burning what really is left over from when we have refined the gasoline for the cars, the diesel for the cars, and all the other. We have some what we call crude oil left, and that's basically what we throw in these engines. So it's the dirtiest of the dirtiest that we've been burning. With that being said, a lot of stuff has happened. We are on a transition towards a new energy vector or new means of propulsion, like we also seen in the automotive industry, where a lot of research has gone into hydrogen and batteries as energy carriers, as a way of utilizing this energy, going away from the fossil fuels. The main focus of us right now in terms of innovation is decarbonization, and the main driver of carbon emission in shipping is the propulsion. So that is the energy vectors and the way that we basically drive the ships. So like the same, we're seeing a transition in the automotive industry towards batteries. We are seeing the same transition in the shipping community, but we have not solved the issues to the same extent. We're not as far in solving the issue as we are with automotives. In the car industry, batteries have reached a point where the power to weight ratio makes a lot of sense. So now, if I go out and buy a new Tesla, I can drive a little less than I can in a regular diesel or gasoline car, but I'm getting very close to the amount I can transport. Batteries are simply too heavy compared to what they can carry of power to use in most maritime cases. In some short ferries and small boats, it makes sense, but there are all the ocean-going vessels, all the big tankers, all the big container vessels, all the big passenger and cruise ships. We simply cannot rely on batteries, so we still have that unknown. What should we be using as a means of power in the future, or as an energy vector? we are of course looking into a lot of different matters. Hydrogen, we're looking into ammonia, we're looking into methanol, ethanol. Basically, we're looking into everything that can be produced utilizing renewable energy. So taking wind energy, taking solar energy, and then storing it in some way for us to use when we need it. Exact same problems as with the car industry, just in a lot bigger scale and with some more, with a more complex issues, because where a car can be charged every 600 miles or every 400 miles, some of these vessels stay out for weeks and they burn a lot of energy. So we need to figure out how we can efficiently store this energy in the most cost-effective way, because we can already store it, but we cannot store it in a financially sustainable way. So that is, again, that turned out to be a little longer answer than I wanted it to be, but that is the main way where I think we can help and where we as an industry need to innovate. Society will definitely be affected by it. We all are.
When we talk about the pollution caused by maritime transport, we also have to include the seaports that should certainly to be subject to emission reductions, replacing, whenever possible, fuel with greener energies, as you were talking about. Can you comment and indicate, in your opinion, whether cities, especially coastal ones, will not be impacted by these measures?
I think the entire society, all cities will be impacted by this development. When you mention pollution right now, we have to define what pollution we're talking about. There are the GHG pollution, which are all the climate gases that are causing our climate to change. And then there are the pollution, which is what's considered air pollution. That is the SOx, the NOx, the particulate matter, all these things that we breathe in and that harms us or harms living organisms. Right now, a lot of debate among seaports or amongst cities close to the sea has been about the air pollution and the harm that it's causing to the people living close to the ocean and to the environment. I mean, I'm sure you have those issues in Portugal. You have beautiful sea, you have beautiful land, and you have a lot of cruise ships coming by. You also have a lot of heavy sea transportation. They are emitting a lot of poison gas, basically, that are harming the environment, that are killing animals, and that are killing people. So, of course, they will be affected, and they stand to benefit a lot from this change. When we talk about society in general, I mean, this is not just cars transforming or ships transforming. This is the entire society that we're trying to go turn away from utilizing these fossil energies or fuels, as you call them. We have in society been relying too much on oil, we have been relying too much on coal, and we're seeing this major transition into some of these renewable energy sources. And society is dealing with the same issues that we are in cars and that we are at sea. We need to store renewable energy, because it's great when the wind blows. It does it a lot here in Denmark, and the sun shines a lot in Portugal, so you can collect a lot of sun. But there are also times when the sun does not shine and the wind does not blow. So we don't have a constant flow of energy. Oil is constant. Coal is constant. We can just burn it. But wind and solar goes up and down. So we need somewhere to even out the peaks, to store the peak, and so we can use when we're at the bottom. So basically, we have to store this energy in an efficient way. And looking as much into cars as you have probably been, you know that the battery is efficient for some, but we can simply not use battery on these massive amounts of scale that we have not at the current place in lithium-ion technology. But we can look into other matters. Another matter that has also been looked into by the car industry is hydrogen. We can take this renewable energy, whether it's from the sun, whether it's from hydro, whether it's from the wind, take it to electrolysis and store it. And then it can be kept and used once we need it. But this is expensive. So we need to figure out, how do we build all this infrastructure? How do we build all these changes? And how do we pay that extra price that it will cost? Because it will cost extra. So yes, society will definitely be affected by it. We all are.
Since the changes will have to be, of course, global and being deep and time consuming, are we not in danger of being too slow, causing the impacts to only have reflections in several generations?
Yes, definitely. And unfortunately, we're constantly getting new knowledge and feedback from all the clever people looking into this and actually looking at the numbers, looking at how it's affecting, looking at the temperature. And I mean, whereas we for many years thought that the Paris Agreement of 2.5 degrees was enough, and that we could actually stay within that, we have come to a general agreement among most people that we cannot take more than 1.5 degrees increase. Some projections say that we are on target to reach that within our lifetime, and actually in a relatively near future. Other projections say that we're nowhere close and it won't be in our lifetime, and there's no way we're gonna ever reach 1.5 degrees. What I can say is that we should just recognize how extremely important this is for our generation and for other generations to come. And we should all figure out how can we do this in a way that makes sense. And I'm very glad that the regulators have woken up. They are definitely moving in the right direction. And I also see some of the largest companies in the world doing a lot. And we're both talking in terms of shipping. I'm of course interested in all the clients. I'm interested in the IKEAs of the world. I'm interested in the Coca-Colas, in the Novo Nordisk, in all of the companies that are shipping a lot of goods. They are pushing the ship owners and other in their supply chain to become more green or more sustainable. And all the ship owners are again pushing their suppliers. So I think we're seeing some great tendencies. So I hope that we'll reach it in our lifetime. But we won't know. I mean, nobody knows.
What is the green ship of the future modus operandi in terms of fundraising and as an influencer in cities and the world in general?
I mean, we're a private organization. We are not for-profit organization, but we are paid for and financed by our members. So our members are paid to be a part of Green Ship of the Future. That is a very modest amount that they pay, and then when we do projects or do major studies, we fundraise, not as you would do in venture capital or in private equity. That's my background is that, but more in terms of public foundations, in terms of green funds, in terms of basically other sources of money that are out there to not get a return, but to simply just do good. So when we embark into something, it's not to have a clear ROI or return on the investment. It's to spend some money on something we know will not come back, but we know we need to do it. And that's basically the issue with a lot of this movement that we're going through, whether it's the cars or, actually Elon Musk has made it now pay off for the car companies to embark into this, but it's still too expensive in the rest of society. So the business model is not there. So it's very hard to get the venture capitalists and the private equity to move. We've seen some pension funds, because they have such a long-term perspective that they can move in these areas and still expect a good return. But fundraising and allocating capital is difficult here because you're dealing with so much uncertainty. So it's hard to tell people, you will get a return on investment. Just wait 3 years. Most likely not. So was that an answer to your question? I mean, so that's really how we fundraise. How we influence is that we try to influence the technical people. We are a technical organization. So the people that join us, the people that we speak to are technical people. These are people that have to actually solve the issues in the engine rooms. They design the ships, they class the ships. Of course, we also talk a lot to the CEOs and etc. But we focus not on the politics. We focus on solving the technical issues. So that's how we try to influence.
Nowadays the whole world is passing by a really big pandemic. What impact does the COVID-19 pandemic have on greener and more sustainable energies? In your opinion, Frederik, is COVID-19 an accelerator or an inhibitor?
I mean, it's both. I like to hope that short term, of course, we have some liquidity issues. We have some companies that are going to go bankrupt and new companies will come up. So that can, of course, hinder the development because the companies have less money to spend on R&D. With that being said, this has also taught us new way of doing things. We are getting rid of some old habits. I mean, I used to be traveling a lot, not only privately, but for my job. Now a lot of these meetings can happen like this. So that in terms is changing the behavior, which is an important step. But of course, short term, we are a lot of focus right now on companies and for people are in getting over this pandemic. But I think that long term, we will see that not only this change in behavior and the way that we do things will have a positive impact, but also the way that the EU and other governing bodies is going to use this pandemic and going to use the need to put finances out in society as a way to accelerate the green development. So instead of basically just throwing out money and allocating capital for society in general, I am seeing them already focusing this on the green development, meaning that to get society rebooted, to get more jobs, and some of the people that have lost their job, to get them back into jobs, I'm seeing a lot of money flow into these green investments. So a lot of new jobs will also be created. So I see it as both. Short term, I think it's hindering it a little bit, but long term, I think it's going to accelerate it even more because we're going to see more inflow of capital and we're going to see a change in consumer behavior.
Of course. Frederik, do you consider it easier to reach a city of the future that is green and sustainable, or a maritime transport of the future?
What is sustainable? I mean, that's a very big question because sustainability is a lot more than just environment and climate. Sustainability is a lot of things. I like to look at the UN sustainability goals because it gives us an overview of all the different issues. I mean, there are social issues, there are welfare, there are equality issues, there are a lot of issues. So let's focus. I'm only going to comment on the green part. In my mind, environment and the pollution. And I think we'll see the first vessel that is 100% CO2 free or GHG free before we'll see the first city that is completely neutral. With that being said, you cannot take either or, because if the cities don't have enough green energy, the vessels won't be able to get any energy. And the same with the cars. If we don't have green energy when I plug in my car, it won't be sustainable. But if we have the 100% green energy in the city, I will be able to charge my car with the 100% green energy. So that's what also bringing us back to what I was talking about in the beginning. We have been looking at this in silos. We're looking at cars, we're looking at boats, we're looking at planes, we're looking at society. That is gone now. We need to look at this as a big, exactly, because all of this affects each other. I mean, it's all in a symbiosis, so we need to look at it from a broader perspective, and of course solve the technical challenges where they are, in the cars, in the planes, in etc. But the energy transition is global and it's for all of society. So the vessel will come before the city, but none of them will come without the other, so they have a casual.
So, Frederik, in a way, green energy will take or could take advantage of this pandemic?
I think it will. Not only are we going to spend less, but some of all this money that we know that the governments and the EU have to push out to create jobs, they are going to be prioritized towards this green energy transition. Like we see in the US, now that, I'm not going to sit here and comment on politics, but now that they have a president who is more for this green development, instead of trying to keep the coal and oil jobs, which is going horribly, we are going to see a new president who are going to foster the development of windmills and are going to try to create these jobs. So all the people that used to work for the coal industry and that used to work in the oil industry can now get new jobs working in the green energy, whether that's solar, whether that's wind, hydro, etc. So yes, I think this pandemic can help us.
Frederik, your operation is mainly in Denmark. In Scandinavia?
We are mainly global. We started out in Denmark back in 2008, and we're originally focused on Denmark, but we are in such a global industry with global issues that there's no way we can limit ourselves. So we're basically open to the world, but yes, we are located in Copenhagen.
So the stakeholders you put together, They are world companies.
Yes, I mean, some of the founding members are Maersk, that is, of course, the largest container shipper in the world. MAN Energy Solutions, a large German company owned by Volkswagen. It's they used to be called MAN Turbo and Diesel, still creating trucks as well. But their energy, they call MAN Energy Solutions now because they know it's not diesel and and turbo anymore. It's energy basically we talk. So they're a German company owned by Volkswagen. We have one of the large Alfa Laval, one of the very large industrial company operated out of Sweden, but also have departments in Denmark. We have Wärtsilä, the world's largest engine producer out of Finland. We have down Rina, a class society based out of Italy. We have Gruppo IB, which is a technology company trying to with performance management that are based out of Italy as well. So yeah, we have members from around the world, but we are founded in the Nordics. And to be honest with you, for many years, it's also been here where the development has been going fastest. I mean, we were pretty early movers with the wind energy. We especially seeing Norway have been way ahead of the rest of the world with hydrogen, the energy development. So a lot has happened here in the Nordics for years. Now it seems as the rest of the world have been picking up pace and are going at it 100%. So that's great. But yes, we are global.
Frederik, thank you so much for being here and for your time to clarify all the doubts and the questions. Thank you so much.
I figured